So Matimba, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
Yep.
But before we move into the future, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Where did you grow up?
Okay. I was born and bred in Role, a village in Bushbuck Ridge, next to Tulamahashi, which is
Mpumalanga.
in Mpumalanga, yeah. I grew up there, very small, tiny village. I don't know how many people are in that village. In our village, actually, probably about maybe at best 200-300 families. Very small village.
Right.
Born out of my mom. My mom was a primary school teacher. My dad was a bus driver. And we were three boys. Our eldest brother never lived with us because he was old, and he was he lived quite far from us. And then it was just the two of us with me and my other brother. So that's where we grew up. Very unassuming village. Nothing much to write home about, but of course, the normal rural life in South Africa. I grew up herding goats. We had some few goats in the house.
Okay.
So the normal life in those days was wake up, go to school, I suppose, come back and take the goats for grazing, look after the goats, and be in the field literally for the whole afternoon, play around there, go and swim in the river, and come back home, yeah.
And what was your dream career as you grew up?
Look, I mean, I can't lie. Did I have even a dream career in those days? I don't think I did. Look, what was most fascinating was seeing my dad driving buses, which was kind of fascinating. And I suppose it's a little bit about not knowing what you don't know, right? Because my mom was of course a primary school teacher, as I said. I think, in fairness, my parents were very ambitious for the village that we grew up in. My dad had many firsts, was like the first clerk in the government, went on to go work he was a driver at the South African Railways. So, a couple of things. He was the first guy to complete, I think, they called it a JC in those good days, which was a standard 8. So quite driven family. I think fair to say that there was no career dream. I think the defining moment was when my father died when I was 8 years old,
Right.
Which in a way changed our lives in a very big way, because whilst my mom was a primary school teacher, actually she was not a qualified teacher, so to say, so which made it a little bit difficult in terms of earning capacity and all those kind of things. So that was defining, because at that point in time, as an 8-year-old, having to understand what adulthood means, because there was no money in the house and all those kind of things, and we had to literally I remember, I think our first meal, we went to sell bottles of cold drink to be able to make money to get money for bread and all that. And my mom decided to run a shebeen.
So were you the eldest?
No, I was the last. Was the last born. We're 4 years between me and my brother, but we're very close family. And my mom decided to open up a shebeen, sell alcohol illegally, so that it can help us actually to look after the family, and that was really, really important.
So it was tough.
It was tough, yeah. It was tough, but it was. In a way, there's a bit of an entrepreneur in me. I haven't had the courage to take the risk and go out of corporate and be an entrepreneur. But growing up and having to sell beer, knowing how to count stock, knowing to make profit, it was actually quite an interesting thing, because remember, we didn't have electricity in those days, right? So it was basically a paraffin-powered fridge that we had.
Right.
And it was quite important to make sure that whatever we sell, we're able to make money to buy food and to be able to take us to school. As a matter of fact, it was from that shebeen that we were able to go through high school, because my mom sent us to a boarding school in Giani, which was one of the prestigious, well, I'll call it prestigious in a rural sense, one of the good boarding schools in those days. It was really top quality school. It has produced a number of leaders from, allow me to call from my tribe, from the Tsonga Shangan Nation. Keta Ngumana High School was a good, brilliant high school. So when money from the Shebeen took us to school and to varsity as well, as a matter of fact.
So that was your first job?
That was my first job, actually. That was my first job. You're right, that was my first job, think about it. Yeah.
So Matimba, where did you move? What was the next step in your career?
So went to high school. Look, one of the key things that has helped me in life, I did things quite early. So when I went to school, I was actually 4 years old when I started school. Primarily because my mom was a teacher and there was no one to look after me at home, actually. So she took me to school and to go play. So as I was playing, I was put with the sub A kids, and apparently I did well at
the age of 4.
Yeah, at the age of 4. Yeah. So then I progressed quite quickly as a result of that. When I finished high school, I was 15 years old.
Wow.
I had other plans, actually. When I was at high school, because I was at a science boarding school. I was hoping to do medicine, but teenagehood caught me up. I didn't do well in my maths exams, so I couldn't get admission to go do medicine. But I suppose it was a blessing in disguise, because I later found out that I don't think I would have enjoyed it. But anyway, at the age of 16, then I went to varsity. I did a junior degree at a very small university called University of Venda. When I did a B.Admin degree, which was pretty much what the best I could do. My brother was doing law, and he didn't want both of us to be lawyers. And I said, "Okay, go do a Bachelor of Admin." I said, "Okay, whatever that means." Went in. In a way, what was important was I had to redeem myself a little bit, because my matric results were not that so great. But I had passed matric. I got exemption, but as I said, the maths didn't come out, so that was a bit of a disappointment. So, but importantly is that I remember those days, my mom just had enough money to take me through the first semester of varsity, which meant that it was really tough. So first year was one of the toughest things that are outside of having lost my dad. But when I did my first year at varsity, it was really, really tough because there was no money, and all that. But I worked really, really hard, because I got 3 distinctions at my first year, which was really a turning point in my life, because as a result of that, I managed to get a bursary. Because if I had not gotten a bursary, I would have dropped out for financial reasons, because there was just not enough money to. And my mom had said, "Look, go in, let's see what will happen." So we used to get, over and above the Shebeen, she used to get money from the loan sharks, from the machonisas to take. So the plan was, my brother is supposed to finish university first with his law degree. So if I had not been able to get a bursary, it meant that I was going to drop out at first year and then wait for my brother to finish varsity and then go back. But fortunately, I woke up to the reality that I can actually do something for myself, and I worked really hard, and I got those distinctions, and I got a bursary. So, voila! Then that helped me, and then I finished my junior degree when I was 18. Then I had to go fulfill my bursary obligations because I got the bursary from the government, the then Gazankulu government. I had to go work, which was one of my, I think it was challenging, because I was quite young, working with all those old mamas and old papas who can't be in government for a long time.
So where did you work?
In Giani. Actually, I went to Giani. I worked in Giani. I was in HR, actually. I was placed in HR. So that's how my HR career started. Personnel called on those days. At the age of 19, but I must be honest, I was quite bored. I decided to go back to varsity after 2 years. So I went to UCT when I was 21 to do my postgrad. But at that time, I knew that I'm going to stick with HR pretty much. So I did my postgrad at UCT. But that was the time, it was 1993, as the change was happening. When I finished, I went back to the government for about 6 months, and then I decided that I need to go to the private sector. So I joined a company called Monday Paper in Springs. I was actually an experiment of affirmative action because I was the first black graduate to go work there. And wow, that was tough. That was really tough. It was really, everyone spoke Afrikaans. They didn't know what to do with me, clearly. But yeah, survived it. I didn't stay long. It was just not working. I was supposed to be doing industrial relations, but I think the guys just didn't know what to do with me because, typically when doing employee relations, you are part of the management team, right? But then I suppose I was too black to be part of the management team. I remember one time we went to Durban. We were busy with wage negotiations with the union, and because the management team didn't know where to place me, so they had to place the union guys in a different hotel. They were staying in a different hotel. I was staying in a different place.
In your own place?
Yeah. So they could. It was quite interesting. But then I just said, look, I need to get out of here, and I had an aspiration to join Unilever, as a matter of fact. Challenge those that in those days Unilever only used to take graduates fresh from uni. But then they started a program which they called First Bounce or something. So they took graduates with some limited experience. So I joined Unilever in Boksburg. That was the beginning of my career in earnest.
At Unilever.
Mm-hmm. I still believe it's actually I'm trying to recreate in my own world stuff that Unilever did with us, and hopefully I'm being successful in that. That was really the best times of my career, to be honest. I think outside of going to the UK. So started in Unilever and was in Unilever for about 5 years.
And that was still in HR?
In HR, yeah. I'm an HR guy. I say to people that I'm in HR by choice, not by chance. Unilever. And then as I grew up the ladder, I needed to make a move. I suppose I had reached a ceiling because HQ Unilever has always been in Durban. There were opportunities for me to go to Durban, but I couldn't because I was just about to get married. My mom was not so well. And Durban was not appetizing at all. I was approached by BMW.
Okay.
So I went to work for BMW SA in Roslyn, which was really good. As a matter of fact, my trip to Germany last week, over the weekend while we were touring, we went to the Four Cylinders building, which is the HQ. In Munich, yeah. So basically what happened is that we, from the hotel we were staying with my wife, we said, no, we're going to go to the city. And then said, no, let's go via the Olympic Stadium.
Right.
And I had actually literally forgotten. Got out of the station. Wow, there's the Four Cylinders building. And I remembered, it's like 18, 19 years ago when I went to the Four Cylinders building when I used to work for BMW. So went to BMW. Great time in BMW. It was very good. Actually enjoyed myself there, to be honest. But whilst I was there, I decided to do my MBA. I've always been driven to do, I suppose, bigger things in life and to do more with my life. I was doing my MBA. Unfortunately, BMW couldn't sponsor my MBA. I had to really figure it out, use my own savings and all that, which was not so great because I knew that the business was going to benefit out of it, right? They didn't have a study leave. They didn't have a study support policy. Something which I'm glad I've got at Vodacom, and there are many people who at Vodacom have been really successful as a result of our study policy. So while I was at BMW, I actually did my MBA at KZN. You were saying that you lectured at KZN. Yes, that's why I did my MBA, because I could only afford correspondence, and So I did that, and while I was there, then I was approached by Vodacom, and happily ever after. I've been here since 2003. So
today you're one of the top 200 leaders globally. Am I right?
Yeah, at Vodafone. Yeah, I am. Yeah. So I mean, look, it's a great job. It's a big responsibility. I enjoy what I do. I've been with Vodacom now. It's my 16 years, pretty much. Into my 17th year. I've enjoyed every moment of it, to be honest. I've been fulfilled. I've made a difference. I've been rewarded. And I continue to be fulfilled.
Right. Now, looking back over your career, Matimba, who inspired you?
My mom.
Okay.
My mom. Like I said, losing my dad at a very early age. And actually, her drive, we were the first graduates in our village. So one of the key things that she had decided at that point in time when my dad passed on, was that she's going to try and make sure that we get the best quality education. And seeing her working out. As a matter of fact, my mom didn't have matric. I think I completed matric before she completed her matric. I can't remember, yeah. Because, while she was helping us to progress in life, she actually took a back seat, and all she did was actually literally save every little penny that she could save, borrow money and do that. So the resilience, the vision, and I suppose above all the humility. That's what, yeah. So till today, she's still my biggest role model in life.
She's still alive?
Unfortunately not. She passed on about 2 years ago. But yeah, she's...
And when you look back over your career, Matimba, would you say there was a major turning point? Or maybe a number of turning points?
There's a number. Look, I suppose career more my life. When my dad passed on, turning point. And actually, when I didn't do that well in matric, because I wanted to be a doctor, that was a turning point, because now having to change course. So I suppose, learning to cope with failure at a very young age, that was quite a key thing for me at 15. So then having to change course and make the best out of the worst situation, which, pretty much, I suppose, lack of guidance, lack of understanding, and a little bit being naughty, I suppose, as a 15-year-old, and took things for granted. But quickly I had to dust myself off. So that was a turning point. I think also a number of turning points within the government in those first 2 years. It was, it made me realize that I can do better with my life. This is not what I was meant to do. So that was a turning point. Of course, I think the one thing that I didn't mention was student politics, because when I was at uni, when I did my junior degree, I was participating in student politics, and it was quite good learnings. Primarily because, look, this was 1988, right? In the heat of the times when the pressure was on for the system to change. 89, I remember I was at one of the executive members of Sansco in those days. So it was quite fun. So a number of turning points, defining moments. Joining Vodacom was a defining moment on its own. I think another key milestone was when we moved on to go live in London with my family. Yeah.
When was it?
That was in 2010. I had already... I tell people that career planning is probably much more important than financial planning. That is if you're a career person. Because part of my plans when I was at Unilever, because I realized being part of multinational at Unilever that there are international opportunities. My wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time. This was about 1996 or so. I remember telling her that, I would like to work overseas one day. I didn't know when, how it will happen. But yeah, that was one of the things that I had always been on my mind. So when we had an opportunity to go live in the UK, I worked in London in 2010 with my family. That was a key defining moment as well. Very difficult assignment, I must say. It was kind of rebased everything that I knew and had to start all over again.
What was it about, your assignment?
So I was first appointed as head of talent for the Africa, Middle East and Asia Pacific region. I did that for about a year, Then after that, I got an opportunity to look after organizational effectiveness for the region once again, which was quite challenging. So I was head of OE for the AMAP region. And one of my best bosses then, Alison Wilcox, she's now actually the global HR director for BT. She was actually very key in helping me thrive when I was in the UK, to be honest. Best career coach I've ever had, to be honest. So that was really defined. That was really great. I mean, primarily also the role because of the fact that there were just many transformational things that we had to do. I remember I had a big project that I was doing in India at the time. India was about to roll out 3G, and I was leading a project of capability building for 3G rollout in India, and I had to travel to India every 6 weeks. While we're doing that, we did lots of stuff on diversity in India with the team, and one of my great colleagues who left since then, Ashok, who was the HR director, they worked on a number of things together, and of course having to also do some stuff back at Vodacom, because there's so the way it works in Vodafone is that Vodacom is part of the Africa, Middle East and Asia Pacific region, and I was doing a regional job which included Vodacom as one of the markets that I was responsible for with my portfolio. So I had to come back here, do a number of things in terms of cost efficiencies. So yeah, it's been a lovely ride. And coming back in 2013, I was head of HR for the SA business.
All right.
From July, and I was promoted into this role on the 1st of April 2014.
So
and yeah,
Matimba, going back to London, did you have time to enjoy the Olympics? 2012?
Actually, I did. We did go watch. It was difficult to get the ticket, but we did go watch the final of the women's football.
Okay.
We went to watch that with my family, but the rest was on telly, unfortunately. But it was really good. I mean, the vibe was exceptional. It was really lovely being there at that time. I mean, everything was just about Olympics, right? We still remember her, Jessica Ennis, who was actually the what do they call it? Is the pole? What do they call it? The
pallbearer?
Yeah. She was she was quite inspirational because I went to one of her talks as well. So yeah, it was really good being in London at that time. Was really it was a very brilliant, immersive experience.
Did you get involved in the British or the Premier Soccer League?
No, I did watch. I'm an Arsenal fan. I did go watch Arsenal with my son. Arsenal versus Reading, which was a good game. I didn't go to many Premier League games. Unfortunately, my job was also a traveling job. So I used to go to New Zealand, India, like I said, Ghana, South Africa, Egypt, Qatar. So I traveled a lot, Australia. So it was quite difficult for me to be able to do that. So any spare time I got was spending time with the family.
So Matimba, what would you say is driving you today?
Making a difference in the business. I think primarily because we are, as we enter into the digital future, one of the key things that we have done as Vodacom is outlining our strategy of digital transformation, which we started our journey about 3-4 years ago when we crafted our 2020 strategy with the board. So driving digital transformation is really one of the things that keeps me interested, keeps me awake, and keeps me energized, to be honest with you. I love doing new things and actually seeing people thrive, because I always look at these things from a people angle, and that's why I love being in HR, because in truth, there's no digital transformation without people. Right? People talk about the fourth industrial revolution. What does that mean? And it's quite interesting when I worry when people, and it is reality, but I worry when people look at the fourth industrial revolution from the context of, jobs are going to be lost. I actually look at it from the perspective of the new careers that gets created, right? Let's face it, 4 years ago, you didn't have so many Uber drivers in this country, right? How many jobs has Uber created? So you just have to, and I'm a guy, I'm an eternal optimist. I look at the glass half full all the time. So just, people people don't realize that being a drone pilot, it's one of the important skills. It's going to be going forward. So I look at digital transformation from an opportunity perspective, the opportunity that this creates for the world, and also doing things simpler. Here I was, over the weekend when I was in Germany, using Uber. When I would go, I was going into trains, so I was looking at checking the app, checking what time the trains are. Things that life is becoming much more easier in the world of digital. All you have to do is just embrace it, look at the opportunity, and of course, get ready by making sure that we learn new skills, and that's what is actually exciting me.
Right. Now, Matimba, let's talk about leadership. What does the future of leadership mean to you?
I think the future of leadership is it's about seizing the opportunities to change the world. That's what it is. Because for me, great leaders are the ones who seize the opportunity, who seize the moment to make a difference in this world and change the world. That's what leadership is all about. In doing so, we need to make sure that we nurture people. I think coaching is becoming much more important, because whilst you seize the opportunity to change the world, you need to be able to bring people along. Those who may be scared, those who actually bridging the digital divide will become critical as well. So let's seize the opportunities to change this world as leaders because if you look at how much change is going to come going forward, that future belongs to those leaders who are going to seize the opportunities. If you don't seize the moment and seize the opportunity, unfortunately, you will become irrelevant very quickly. And as a leader who is forward-looking, you really have to think about how do you seize opportunities? What are those opportunities? And what can we do to change the world? It's actually absolutely important. I mean, if you think of the whole food crisis situation that people say that in 2050 we're going to have more than 10 billion people in the world, right? Are we going to be able to feed everyone? But if you look at the food revolution that's happening in terms of vertical farming, as an example, if you look at the different patterns of food consumption that are happening, I think there's actually an opportunity as compared to having a problem, as compared to being a problem. So I think it's about seizing the opportunity.
Right. Now, Matimba, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders?
Resilience. Resilience, yeah. That's what I've learned. I think you have to be resilient and learn to not take failure as the end game. So for me, because what resilience does is that as you fail, as you hit a snag, as you hit a pothole, you got to be seeing that as a temporary upset that actually you will overcome. So I think that's going to be absolutely critical. And that's one of the things that I've learned as a person, as a human being. But I think over and above all, keeping myself grounded, humility. As I said, it's a trait that I've learned from my mom. And I often say to people, I'm a normal guy from Bushbuck Ridge, and I don't take myself too seriously, to be honest, because of the fact that I just like to interact with people at a level that makes them comfortable. Because sometimes, as leaders, we often forget that, you are a junior guy somewhere, So therefore, one of my traits and things that I really enjoy is staying grounded and interfacing with people at any level, just as a human being and with respect as well. So for me, what I've learned, resilience and humility are things that actually signifies me and differentiates me as a human being. And I think having that appetite to learn, that's one of the things that will help me. I always want to learn. I've been driven about learning new things all the time, and actually being excited about the future. Being excited about the future, it's one of the things that you can do for your team. and for the world at large. Whilst everyone else looks at all the problems of the world that we have, I keep on being excited. So for me, that positive outlook of life and being excited about tomorrow, being excited about the future, it's one of the things that actually keeps me going.
Now, Matimba, when you speak to aspiring leaders, what is it you tell them they should focus on for future-proofing their career?
One, don't be complacent. What you know today may not be relevant tomorrow. And unlikely to be relevant, by the way. So therefore, what is important is, you have to keep yourself abreast, not doing abreast, maybe keeping yourself ahead of the times, and hence being excited about the future. So I say to young people, look at opportunities every corner. There are just opportunities that are surrounding us all the time. And unfortunately, people get drawn in sometimes about call it negative press, call it what happens on Twitter, call it, and don't realize that there's just an abundance of opportunities. And I think there's not enough opportunities I think there are more opportunities than people than we have in the world, to be honest. All it needs is if each and every individual will look at that opportunity that comes across or create one, this world will be a better place.
Now, Matimba, when it comes to technology, what would you say are the tools of technologies, or maybe the technologies that future leaders should learn and master?
Look, I just came from a brilliant conference from the Global Vodafone Leadership last week, and I think it's quite amazing what the future of 5G looks like. And I mean, there are use cases already. I think it's on YouTube actually. There's a blind skier who actually skied down the slope by being guided by a person, by her guide, but they were not together. She's always skied with her together, but this time around she was skiing alone. So, I mean, the opportunities that are coming from 5G are just immense. So I would say, unfortunately, I think we've got situations which we, as a country, dealing with about availability of spectrum, and I'm hoping the government is actually looking into it. Actually, we've heard that things are going to be coming that way, because just what 5G presents in terms of the revolution that it will bring, the opportunities, what I was talking about earlier. So I think, as a leader, one is watch out for the speed of technology. Watch out for that change, for those changes that are coming through as a result, which are being enabled by our industry. Because I think what ICT has done, especially by the mobile operators, the enablement of economies and what opportunities brings for people is just amazing. As I said, the future of 5G is just so amazing in terms of what it will do for us in this world.
Now, Matimba, when it comes to social media, what is it you tell future leaders? How should they navigate social media to build their own brands?
My view is, social media is just another platform. I always say that don't do on social media what you will not say to people. If I wasn't going to swear at you, why must I swear at you on social media? So I think it's a platform which it's worth engaging, worth using, very important platform, but be responsible as a human being, just like you do when you're talking. So courtesy is quite important. Be courteous with other people, and don't be that. There's life outside of social media too, by the way. So whilst people are hooked on it, but use it as a platform responsibly. I'm on Twitter myself. I'm on LinkedIn. I decided not to be on Facebook, but it's a choice, and I use WhatsApp, and and all the apps that make my life easy, I use them. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we've just done here at Vodacom, we've launched an Engage app, which is pretty much for creating a platform for employees to be able to engage across different social medias in the business. So, I think social media is actually it's becoming main media, right? And that's most media is consumed on social media, right? I guess all the media.
Right. Now, Matimba, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored somebody and that person took your advice to heart?
Wow, there are a few. There are a few people whom I've mentored, and some I continue to mentor people. And I think one of the advices, which it's my tagline, which I use with young leaders, people that I mentor, is that of humility, because success can come in some people's head, and I emphasize humility a lot when I talk to people, because interestingly, in this world of in this materialistic world, right? People get successful, drive a nice car, have got a nice home, and you can get carried away very easily if you don't stay grounded. And that's why I do crazy things like running the comrades, right? Because when you run the comrades, it levels you. All it needs is you must have trained enough to be able to run and finish it. And big, small, all different people of different shapes and sizes, it will humble you, right? So you can go in there with all your attitude, whatever, but it will humble you. So things like that keep on reminding me, and I think it's a good reminder that we're all human beings, right? And so for me, when I mentor in my mentoring sessions, actually one of my mentors, which she's a lady. She's actually part of our graduate program. She said to me the other day that it's quite interesting how you are so predictable in the things that you tell me and don't change course. Because sometimes I think if you're not authentic when you're sharing with young leaders. Actually, not sometimes. If you're not authentic, then you're going to lose them, right? So authenticity is quite important. And as a result, you're able to actually reinforce messages that are able to sync. So, yeah, call it a success story or not success story. But for me, success about mentoring is not necessarily about the career ladder, to be honest with you. It's not about, it's about the advice that I give and the things that I learn from them and what they learn from me, that actually find it useful in their day-to-day lives. I've been, and when I said the best career coach I've had, referring to Alison, it's actually things that I've learned from her on some of them very simple, just ask the questions, Matimba, what is the exam question that you're trying to answer. Things that I can use in my day-to-day life. So for me, it's about being able to impart knowledge on tools or advice that people can use on a day-to-day basis.
Now, Matimba, are there any role models of leadership that you feel future leaders should study and maybe learn from? Yeah,
I think, look, and for me, I like diversity of thoughts. So, and therefore, I kind of pick from different people. I mean, for instance, Steve Jobs, right, for his bright ideas, and one of the things that we should look up to for Steve Jobs is actually in terms of ease of use of products. If you think of Apple and how it grew, and the magical touch that Steve Jobs had was ease of use. That's why the other day I was actually laughing because someone shared a video clip. I think Steve Ballmer was the CEO of Microsoft at the time, when he laughed at the phone without a keyboard, right? But what Steve Jobs did was to say, actually a keyboard, it's not that easy to use. It's been there forever. Why can't people just use a smartphone? So I therefore say that as a young leader, look out for good things that you can learn from different leaders. So for me, someone like Steve, simplicity, that's what Steve Jobs taught me. I never met him, but if I look at his success, it was just simplicity and ease of use. And we've got very great examples like Nelson Mandela, Utata. One of the things that he actually taught us was, once again, it was about, humility, and being able to stay the course, resilience. So I say to young leaders, of course, if you decide to follow one, it's your call. But I rather prefer to say, look at the different leadership success stories and pick from them what will help you, and what shapes you to be a better leader. That's what I do.
Now, Matimba, how can our leaders connect with you, and where should they follow you?
Okay, I am on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter, Mbungela M, so they can follow me on Twitter. I use Twitter mostly for private things, but I'm okay to engage on Twitter as well. Yeah, and my mobile is available as well. So happy to connect with future leaders and other leaders as well. Why for me it's important is because there's always an opportunity to learn from young leaders as well. And that's what excites me when I interact with young leaders. So yeah, looking forward to getting some lessons from some of the young leaders that you have in the future of leadership that they can teach us something.
Now, Matimba, last but not least, is there one piece of advice that you would really like to convey to future leaders that they should implement in their own lives?
Stay grounded. Stay grounded, be resilient, and I think more importantly, seize the opportunities that surrounds you. And don't be drawn by the negative sentiment, by negativity around. Look, example is when I was away last week meeting people, unemployment rate of 28% officially, probably unofficial going above 35. It's not a small feat, right? But South Africa is a brilliant country. It's actually one of the best countries in the world. And I think there are opportunities for us to turn the tide and actually help the government. So young leaders, look out for these opportunities. Don't always look out for being employed by someone else. Seize the opportunity to be self-employed. If you are employed, seize the opportunity to grow your career inside the business. Seize the opportunity to actually make a difference. And I think more important is also dig deep to your purpose. What is your purpose that you are here for? And stay close to your purpose as well.
Well, Matimba, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership, and reminding us that we should stay excited about the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been great talking to you. Hopefully it will be a good sharing for other leaders. Thank you.